Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Marrero Psychology Toolbox. This week I'm going to talk to you about the power of your thoughts and how if you change your thoughts, you can actually change your life. Let's get started. Check out the triangle here. If you've been in therapy before, this triangle is going to look a little bit familiar. And if you haven't, bear with me. This is actually going to be really helpful for you. So if you notice on the bottom left, it says actions. Moving to the top, it says thoughts. And on the right, it says behaviors. Now, this is a triangle that cognitive behavioral therapists use to show you the impact of your thoughts and emotions on behaviors. So let me give you an example of how this works. So most of us have driven before, and if you're anywhere here in the LA area, you've probably been on this road, the 405. So let me paint you a real life example of what it might be like to use this triangle. So imagine you're driving down the road here and it's busy traffic but not gridlocked, and you're just kind of going on your way. Maybe you're going to work or going to the grocery store. And then out of nowhere, another car comes and just barely misses hitting the front of your car as it cuts you off. All right. Imagine that's just happened to you and check in with yourself. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? And what do you do? So if you're like 99.999% of the people on this planet, you may have had a response that's similar to this. So for example, maybe the first thought you had was, oh my God, this guy is a total asshole. Or, ooh, I knew I should have stayed home this morning. Or the city is just filled with people who can't drive. Or, ah, that lady tried to kill me. So imagine that you've had these thoughts. They've happened like lightning, just like that. And then they lead directly to a whole slew of feelings. Maybe you felt rage or anger. Maybe you felt disgust at yourself or the other people. Maybe you felt fearful. Either way, this happened like a flash of lightning. And then what do? What behaviors came from that? Maybe you honked your horn. Perhaps you yelled profanities. Maybe you just went, ah! And you just couldn't handle it anymore. Maybe you were so afraid you covered your eyes and you just thought, I've got to get off of this road. Either way, the reaction was probably pretty noticeable. But what if I told you there was more to the story? What if I said that the person who cut you off is this guy here? His name's Will, and in the back seat is his daughter, Natalie, and she has just fallen from a tree. He was looking over his shoulder to comfort her because she's terrified and in so much pain and scared when he looked up and he was like, oh no, that's the exit to the hospital, and he cuts over as fast as he can. Does that change how you see the triangle? Most of the time when I give this example, the answer is yes. Typically what they do is they think, oh my gosh, that person's a responsible dad. I wish that he had seen me, but I understand that he didn't. And they feel compassion, empathy, maybe still a little bit of fear, but definitely not the rage. And then they typically will do something along the lines of yield or slow down to let the father in. But as you know, we don't actually know what was happening in that car. And I could have just as easily said that this guy gets up every morning and his entire goal in life is to cut people off, and he laughs like it is the funniest thing in the world as he adds another tally to the number of people that he's cut off for the day. Now, I imagine you probably would have had quite a bit of a different triangle if that had been the case. So as you can see, the situation was the exact same. Either way, no matter what happens with the other person in the car, you still got cut off. So you may wonder, well, what does this matter anyway? But it actually matters a lot. Throughout the day, every day, we have thousands, if not tens of thousands of thoughts, and not all of them are accurate. So we jump to assumption, like that guy's an asshole who was driving, when actually we really don't know what happened with the other person. And so we have a whole series of emotional responses that may or may not be based on reality. So if you can, one of the things that's really helpful to do is start catching these thoughts as they happen. They may be automatic, like they happen in the car, but you can actually slow them down and do something about them. So this is a tool that you can use. I'm going to introduce it in just a second. It's an automatic thought record. And if you like, you can go ahead and go to my website at marreropsychology.com, go to the toolbox section, useful guides, and then download this thought log so you can play along with me. All right, do you have yours? Don't worry, I'll wait. Go ahead and press pause here. Okay, so I've gone ahead and filled this in with an example that I've heard time and again from different people that I've worked with. So just to show you an example of how this thought record works. So on the first column, you're going to see that the date and time, I didn't fill that in, but in the second column, an argument between partners happened. And the response that the person had was crying, they felt tearful, their heart was pounding, there was a flush in their face, maybe in their body, and a tightness in their chest. Now, the automatic thought that this person reported was, he doesn't care about me. And you'll notice that there's a percentage after that, and that is how true that thought was. Now, based on the information that they had. Now, and checking in with the emotions, the person said they felt 60% sad and 65% angry. Now, checking in, this was an automatic thought that the partner didn't care about them. And then when they slowed it down and checked in with themselves and the relationship and the situation, here's what they found. Actually, the partner does care. And the person had felt hurt because the partner was too busy that day to call them back. And that was a 100% true statement based on the history of this relationship. Now, the shifting emotions that happened here, if you'll notice, there was still sadness, but instead of 60%, it went down to 15%. Some disappointment, which is a new emotion, however, a more accurate emotion. Some understanding and compassion, because in this example, perhaps the other person is a very busy graduate student and is also working, so they may not actually have a lot of free time. And then some hope, instead of feeling that the relationship might be doomed or is over, that, they can work around a busy schedule. And then lastly, there's still just a tiny bit of anger, but it's gone down to 2%. So this is an example about the situation being exactly the same, but instead of allowing the automatic pilot happen of the person's thoughts, they've slowed it down and they've checked in with what's really happening so that their reaction is much more accurate. You may be wondering why this is helpful at all. So who cares if your thoughts are more accurate? Well, here's actually why. Imagine if you had a certain pattern to our thoughts, like most of us do, but that pattern was an inaccurate pattern. So for example, what if most of your patterns were about how unlovable you were or how people just didn't like you? And yet, maybe you didn't have the evidence to support it. Each time you have that inaccurate thought and then have the emotion that follows it, then you're eventually going to build moods or perhaps even a mood disorder or an anxiety disorder. So this is really how powerful our very thoughts are in shifting our emotions. And that is why this tool is important. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for your attention and watching. I hope you find this tool helpful and that you have a chance to apply it to your own life and see how it works out for you. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to drop me a line, give me a call, and as always, take good care.